There's literally no money that you can make on a dead planet. If you drink coffee, you're definitely drinking poverty. And on the regular, you are absolutely drinking child labor. Human rights is about love and respect for other people.
Hi friends, welcome to another episode here on the Green Living Chat podcast. Here's a conversation with Etelle Higonnet, who is the founder of Coffee Watch. Exciting conversation about how industries and companies could look beyond profit and prioritize human rights. Here we go. Enjoy. Hi, thank you so much for making time for the Green Living Chat podcast. You have no idea. Since Prep Chat, I've been waiting. But here we go. So super excited for us to dive into it, to know more about what you're doing and your work. I don't think we'll have enough time, but I'm still
You're
super
so
excited.
sweet. Oh my God. I'm like blushing. I'm usually going to have you to the screen or something. I'm not thinking.
Okay, let's start with this. What brings you happiness?
I have set my intention on finding as much happiness as possible in life because I think that often are back on it. And when I was growing up, I wasn't taught to embrace happiness. But then I met some people who just like that change in me. One of them is the mom of my best friend, Alexi. Her name is Rosemary. And she is kind of like my spirit guide for happiness. You know, it's find joy in the snow. You can find joy in the sun. You can also decide that you're miserable every time. You can just like whinge and be super unhappy about how hot you are when it's too sunny. It's so much of it is in your own mind. And I think also I used to be very unkind to myself and really, you're not doing enough to save people and the planet. You suck. You're like an inadequate activist. And I found this wonderful therapist, and it just changed around the paradigm. But I think maybe the thing that changed my life the most was that intention setting of trying to find joy in all of the small in life that you can and like rewrite the script of how you set this intention of being joyful. But then also, therapy, being kinder to myself, helped me around the world. And then the biggest thing was having a baby. I don't know, David.
No way.
Filled my heart with so love and joy, like this incandescent, stratospheric level. Right? And I think that even when I'm exhausted and disheveled and haven't had a square meal and have just been eating baby leftovers for a couple of days, I still feel this like huge joy that comes from love. And maybe the best answer of all is I find like joy in love.
Interesting. Knowing what you do, family work, traveling, experiencing different cultures and stuff like that, it's really interesting to hear that from you because I think, maybe I need to think about this a little bit more. But I'm super glad that you have external things and internal things that sort of drives you because what you do is really like you have a lot going on. Really exciting thing to think about. Well, you actually got me thinking. Anyways,
But
we have to
it's
jump
funny
into it.
because I do work on things that are not very cheerful. Like
Exactly.
the whole point of Coffee Watch when I set it up was to combat all the extreme poverty that all these coffee farmers and farm workers are locked into, and the child labor and deforestation and modern slavery and rape and all this like crazy bad things that happen to people and planet in our coffee. I just tried to approach it in a different way and feel like they have this privilege to be able to try to make things better.
Yeah.
And every cup that changes to make the world a better place, it's a good cup. Every company that changes, every program that every region, every country that changes, even just one thing, it could be to crack down on poverty by having living income prices or something, or it could be like, oh, we're going to do this huge work to keep kids in school and minimize in coffee, or it could be like, oh, this one company decides we want to be gender equal and not have like rape and sexual violence and stuff in our coffee. And when you start thinking in that positive way, it is how you feel every day when you show up at work, even if it's kind of like dark subjects.
Interesting. I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about this because we have a lot of young people who listen to our podcast. And one of the things is when you bring guests to the show, They're like, we talk about different kind of topics and what specialties that they have, and they're wondering how they started developing these things in their hearts before they got where they are right now. So if you should have a teenager or someone is early 20s asking you, how did you get where you are? When did you know that I want to be who I am today? What would you say to them?
I would say you should just totally follow your heart and try to do the things that you care about the most, because that is what's going to make your life worth living in a different way from just following other people's dreams. Like, I don't know if this was the same for you, David, but when I was growing up, I felt this really heavy burden of like, oh, you have to tick all these boxes and get these accolades and do the best grade. Oh God, I don't know. That's not really what I want for myself. And some parents may want you to earn a lot of money, they may want you to have a lot of fame or power. But actually, if you really care about doing human rights and environment, you know, follow your heart, because it's going to make you truly happy. And all teenagers is there's so many good ways to make the world a better place. If you want to be a doctor, you can in your spare time do Doctors Without Borders, or just like have a clinic in need, that you open up in your mobile clinic once a year, or you do those like cleft palate things where these doctors go in and they just do like thousands of trees. If you want to do banking, you can do like those microfinance bankings, that up banking for the billionaires, you're banking for people who really need it, right? If you want to go into education, you can go into human rights and environmental education. If you want to, be a biologist, you can go save whales or like, but if you want to do business too, like, you can, I'm not wearing them right now, but my shoes are made out of recycled ocean plastic that, people like fish this crap in. And the whole way they finance that process of cleaning the ocean is by turning it into shoes and selling it.
That's it.
So, whatever it is that is your forte. Are you an architect? Are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be a lawyer? Are you going to be a politician? There's always amazing things you can do to help make the world a better place for people and for the planet. And just follow your heart.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting because when I look into your background, I still do wonder, like, who speaks, like, you speak so many languages, and I wonder how all those things work in your mind. And looking in your background, all the places that you've been, places where you've traveled to, working in human rights, trying to move from industry to industry. What was that thing that triggered all these things?
Oh,
Looking at the fact that you are a lawyer.
I should say, no thanks to me that I speak different languages. It's really thanks to my parents, because my mom and dad to like 8 different countries when I was little.
No way.
I know, it's kind of wild, but they just basically throw me into like language, and we're like, make a friend, learn the language, don't run away.
Yeah,
You just, because it's easier when you're younger, isn't it?
right. That's it.
No thanks
Yeah.
to me. Give all kudos to my parents for that. Lawyer, when I went to law school, I realized, wow, the law is really about power. It's about how we organize the world, what's legal and illegal, isn't it? It's like, this is not so much about justice. It's often actually about injustice. Like,
Yeah.
why is it that someone could enslave you and you coffee and I would buy that and I don't go to jail? Like, that's the law now in most places, right? That's crazy. I should go to jail for buying coffee that you made. Like, that's insane, right?
Right.
And I just realized when I was in law school, like, wow, the law is so powerful. It's about how the world is organized, but it is not just. And when
Yeah.
that clicked for me, then that's how I decided, okay, I should probably
To
dedicate my
work in
life to human rights and environmental
Interesting about
activism.
that. Interesting. I mean, you've already started answering this question that I was going to ask you, but moving from culture to culture, I'm sure that you've already seen like trends of the same thing replicating itself. You've been in Southern America, you've been in Africa, you've been in Asia, you've seen what's happening in Europe. You are half American, North American. What are the trends that you've seen of the mistakes that we are making as a human race? especially looking with your human rights eye? What are we doing?
I think that we have embraced profit over planet almost everywhere. There's full of places where it's like indigenous people protecting forests and holding on to ancient ways of life that are not that way. And some governments that are oriented towards a kind of regenerative agriculture and nature protection kind of model, like Costa Rica pretty famously is that way. But I would say that the scary thing is that so many places where I've gone, where I've worked and lived, really profit over planet. And it's not about long-term profit, like what is going to work in 2050 or in 2070. It's about short-term profit, like what is going to make me money right now, this day, this month. And the crazy thing is that there's literally no money that you can make on a dead planet. If we don't protect our planet, we are all going to go completely broke and die. It's this weird thing where we're all somehow trapped in a model of capitalism that somehow inches into this like robber baron capitalism that really privileges the ultra wealthy, the billionaires, right? And it's really abandoned the most vulnerable, and that is also essentially burning our planet so that we will not be able to survive as a species or a civilization. I should say, maybe that we will survive as a species, like some people will make it through climate chaos, but as a civilization, we'll collapse. It's weird. Right? Like, why did we decide that worldwide?
I have no idea. And it's probably not, I don't think you're the only one who has realized this. And sometimes it's really clear that we walk every day and we can see the evidence of this. And in my space of work, I've seen this severally. My background is in water engineering, but I also work in waste management and stuff like that. In both areas, we see things happening. If you go to Southeast Asia, they have one of the most polluted rivers in the world. And it is because everyone in the global north and everyone who is rich is bringing their industries there for cheap labor and for whatever. Exactly. And look at what is happening in the fashion industry. If you come to my home country in Ghana, it's crazy. All in the name of secondhand clothing. And the people at the market are telling you this has changed so much. If we used to have clothing that were probably maybe 99% useful and people could use them, but now it's going as low as 40% to 60 being waste. Look at that. Where have we gotten to? So my long question is that I know the driving force is really money and greed, but what really comes to your mind as a driving force, and how can we as a human race like sort of sit down and look back at ourselves again?
Yeah.
What can we do to solve it? What can we do?
What you're
Where do we
talking
start
about, this is
from?
like one of the most important questions, right, that humanity can grapple with. And by
Yep.
the way, I've seen with my own eyes and also videos and documentaries of like what you're talking about in Ghana, these just enormous mountains of like plastic clothes that are totally unrecyclable and turn into garbage that goes into the ocean. It's awful. But what we do to unwind and start over in a better way, I think this is especially important for young people, right? Because a lot of old people are so set in their ways and just don't believe in the possibility of different ways of imagining how humans are going to interact with each other and the planet. But I believe that one of the most important things we could reimagine is knowledge, awareness.
Right.
People who take a piece of clothing and throw it away or try to fake recycle it in some crazy recycling fraud scheme that actually just winds up in a mountain of garbage in Ghana. They don't know that it's so bad. Most people drink a cup of coffee.
That's it.
They don't know how bad it is. Like, who in their right mind would go to a coffee shop and say, hey, I want a cappuccino with like a dead jaguar on the side? Could I have that flight white
Right.
with, do you want flat white with child labor, or do you want it with a little bit of sexual
That's it.
and rape? Like, no,
That's
nobody
it.
asks that. No
Yeah.
one. That never happens. And the reason it never happens is people don't want their coffee or their
Yeah.
clothes or their phones or from toxic dumping,
That's it.
slavery, violence against indigenous people, and land grabbing. Nobody wants that. The problem is that we aren't conscious consumers for the most part. We're consumers. We're totally divorced from where we. So,
Yeah.
it used to be that
Ooh.
guy, that French philosopher said, I think, therefore I am. Like, now it's almost like I consume, therefore I am, right? We consume so much. I think in Europe, the average person has like 600 items of clothing or more. I mean, it consumes so much. And we don't know who made our stuff, under what.
Yeah.
We don't lead it to stop the bad stuff.
Mhm.
And we certainly don't lean in to try to make it the best it can be. To say, like, oh, I want dignity coffee. I want to have clothes that literally heal the earth and make it a better place instead of poisoning it and polluting it, right?
Yeah.
I think if we were conscious consumers and had knowledge and education about the truth of where their stuff is coming from, most people are nice people. They're good people. We don't want
Right.
red jaguar in their cappuccino. They don't want mountains of garbage in Ghana left over from their t-shirt. They're good,
it.
kind individuals. If they knew, they would choose differently and they would vote differently.
Yeah. What you're talking about is we live in a world where it's more like out of sight, it's out of mind. So we don't see where it comes from. We don't see the process it goes through to get to our plate or to get to our table, to get to our home. So that is that is the root of everything. Now, everyone drinks coffee, right? Probably except me.
Are you a tea drinker? Are you a
Yeah,
tea?
I'm all for tea.
All for
I
your
do
team
drink
tea.
coffee occasionally, but probably I can count the number of times I drink coffee in a whole year. But most people drink
Yeah.
coffee. Why coffee watch? What should we be concerned about?
Oh my gosh, David, if you're a nice, normal person, you should be super concerned about your coffee. It sucks for the most part. I mean, let's just have like some numbers, right? There's about 25 million farmers and about 100 million farm workers in coffee. Almost all of them are poor. About half of them are in extreme poverty, if not more, because there are good years and bad years, when the market price goes up
Yeah.
or down. There are years when everyone is in extreme poverty. That's crazy. David, how do we just decide we're going to have 125 million people in extreme poverty? What about their
Yeah.
families? If you add their kids and then it's like 200 million people. Our coffee is dooming people to poverty and extreme poverty. That's unacceptable. So that's like the first thing. If you drink coffee,
Right.
for sure you drink poverty. But then it gets a little worse, right? We think there are millions of kids working in coffee. That's not because their parents hate them. It's because their families are so poor. They all basically have no choice, right? They feel this is the only way they're going to feed the family and make it financially. And I'm not talking about like make it as in I'm going to be successful and buy a car. I'm talking about like make it to the end of the year without going hungry. So if you drink coffee, you're definitely drinking poverty. And on the regular, you are absolutely drinking child labor. Maybe not in every cup, but probably in half the cups, maybe a quarter of the cups of the coffee that you drink. And if you care about human beings, it's also one of the top drivers of modern slavery in Brazil. There are thousands of people who have been freed from coffee slavery. And those are just the ones that were freed. And by the way, like the authorities in Brazil have only investigated 0.1% of coffee farms. So if we investigated 1% of coffee farms, would we go from 3,800 to 30,000 slaves that have been freed? And that's just the ones that have been freed. What about the people that were never saved? There's human trafficking in your coffee. There's modern slavery in your coffee. There's rape and gender inequality there's gender inequality in almost all your coffee, and there's probably rape in like 1 in 20 cups, something like that. There's a lot of sexual violence and exploitation in the coffee industry.
Oh,
So
right.
if you are like a nice, normal person, you probably don't want to be drinking rape and child labor and slavery and the
Yeah.
biggest driver of deforestation in the world. It's like killing forests. Okay, so that's not cool. You probably want to change your coffee and drink ethical coffee.
You know, I was talking to a friend, crazy one indeed, and he was like, at some point, I think coffee should just go back to Africa, and bananas should just go back to where they came from. Pineapple should just go back to where they came from, and just eat what you have on your land. That's it. But you know, it's a crazy thing to. No, you wanted to say something there?
I do, because I was going to say, we've chosen this messed up way of doing coffee. But David, I truly believe that we can change all of our coffee worldwide. No deforestation, living income, dignity, kids go to school, gender equality. 100% believe I would not be doing this job if I didn't think we could achieve that. And I think, like, not just in our lifetime, David, but like within the next decade, we could have that if we care. So,
Yeah,
of course, you can send coffee back to Ethiopia, but you can have coffee all over the world with justice, with
that's
equality.
it.
You
That's
can.
it. That's it.
Yes,
You know, Eva, my question here is that this industry is run by very rich and huge, big companies, right? Within the whole value chain, from logistics to planting to whatever. If you come here in Costa Rica, there was a huge Starbucks farm and whatever thing here. And they're doing lab investigation, they're doing everything, planting, huge farm, brought people from all around Latin America who are working here on this farm. And now I look at how this industry is so rich. I mean, if you look at every coffee shop, I haven't seen a coffee shop that looks really bad. They are getting sales every day, and that's just the end of the value chain. But if you run up, these guys are rich. They produce impact assessments, they have all their sustainability stuff checked out. Where is the gap? Where are the loopholes? Who is doing monitoring? And why are we not seeing all these things? Because I think a very rich industry should have people who are at the end, the far suppliers. They should have enough money to put food on their table.
totally.
So why is that so?
Okay, there's this one thing that almost nobody in the industry does, which is to pay a living income reference price for the coffee.
Interesting.
So all these sustainability schemes, they say like, oh, I do this and you do that, and she does a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'm so nice and you're so nice. But okay, but the truth is, none of the certification schemes pay a living income reference price to the farmers. Now, let's just break that down. A living income price for coffee, it is literally what it sounds like. It means you can live off it. If you're a company and I'm a farmer, you're a big coffee company and you're buying my coffee, you would literally pay me enough to, quote, live. That means food, basic housing, basic clothing, basic medical care. It does not mean I get to drive a Mercedes or have a McMansion or send my kids to university or even like get cancer treatment. It just means I can get like malaria treatment. I can send to
Interesting.
high school. This is a living income. This is not a luxury income. It's not even a dignity income. It's just a living income. There's literally no certification, no sustainability program right now out there that is like big and makes any kind of a difference. That like what 12.5 million coffee farms in the world. So we think there's about 25 million coffee farmers. If you count their kids, it's like 65 million people in all those families. But there's also 100 million farm workers because the harvest season you have to pick. There's like way too much coffee. People need to bring in labor to pick and harvest, right? And actually, not only the harvest season, you have a lot of farm workers that come for pruning and spraying and stuff like that. Here's the thing. There is not even a discussion about a living wage for those farm workers in any certification scheme. Not even a discussion, at least for the living income price. people talk about it. They're like, oh, I've calculated it. I'm like, do you pay it? They're like, no, why would I pay it? I've calculated it. I'm like, okay, all right. They're like, well, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay. And by thinking, do you mean like put your hand in your pocket and pay? They're like, no. But if you're being
Still here.
huge for the farm workers, nothing. Okay, so if we are not paying a living income price to the farmers, and we are not guaranteeing a living wage to the day workers or the people like by the month or whatever, then how do we expect we can solve problems? Like, of course, if they're starving, we're going to have human trafficking and child labor and sexual exploitation. If they're not earning a living income, like everything goes wrong from there. So, you could have like 19 million questionnaires and all this blah, blah, blah. But, it's the most fundamental thing. We are not doing it.
Yeah. Turning point.
You're one thing I need from a house.
It might feel overwhelming, and I think first it's just disappointing. And I see this replicated in lots of industries. But of course, it does feel overwhelming as well. But what are you doing at Coffee Watch?
Oh, yeah.
How are you even thinking of reaching everybody? I think you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But what are you doing to help this overwhelming thing?
Yeah, basically, Coffee Watch is a pretty simple type approach to trying to fix the coffee industry and make it better. You could think of it like Greenpeace met up with Amnesty International, they got together, hooked up, had a baby, and that baby just wants to work on coffee. That's Coffee Watch. No accident that I used to work at Greenpeace and used to work at Amnesty. I got trained in those two places, and it really influenced my worldview. And so essentially, I think that when you do have a watchdog organization that's fighting for people's rights and fighting for environmental protection, that's uncovering the problems and making noise about the problems and putting in reports and calling up the journalists, be like, have you heard, like sending press releases out and trying to reach people through things like this podcast. And, I think when you ring the alarm as a watchdog, you can make really big change happen. And the reason that's true is not because the watchdog alarm in and of itself is that big. It's because most people are good people, David. I'm sure every single person that's listening to this podcast is going to walk away being like, wow, I really want to drink more ethical coffee. I don't want Jaguar in my cappuccino. I want to, I'm not going to think about coffee the same way. If they've managed to get through this whole podcast, because I know I'm sometimes boring and annoying, but if they manage to get through this whole thing, they will change forever how they think about coffee. Maybe they'll even call their sister or their mom or something and be like, what, did you know you drink coffee every day, my friend? Like, change your coffee. And so I think that the beauty of a watchdog ringing the alarm is that most people are good and they will take this information and they will become change agents and ambassadors for goodness. I'm sure that there's somebody listening to this podcast who's gonna like go to their brother-in-law who owns a coffee shop, or their uncle runs a restaurant, or maybe they are part of a supermarket sustainability team, and they're gonna be like, look at this. And then, if enough people change their cafes and their restaurants and their grocery stores and their supermarkets, or it's not even just that. What about their university or their office? Like, probably everybody listening to this either goes to school or is in an office. Let's change the coffee in all those institutions. If people know how bad things are, I truly believe in my heart that they will fight for truth and justice and rights and Mother Earth. And so that's kind of our theory of change. It's like reaching people's hearts.
For me, one of my take home is I think it's about time that we should all be very mindful of where the things we use every day come from. And something as simple as a coffee you drink. I work with a lot of people from different parts of the world, and I see how people start looking funny in the morning when they don't have their coffee yet. Something you admire and cherish so much, I think you should be concerned about where it comes from, like how we are loyal to the football teams that we support. We literally know the coach, we know the players, we know how
Yes.
much they are earning, we know their families, we know whether they are sick or not, whether they are showing up or not. We should be very passionate about this and also get the people that we get them from to also be able to do the right thing.
That's right.
I think it's a matter of greed because these big players can actually afford to put all the workers in the right places where they can be. And not doing that is just coming out from some form of greed, or you just, I don't know what will cause another human to do that, or to just see that parents are working with their kids on the farm. Can't you see? Like, I don't get it. Can't you see that the parents are working with their kids on the farm? And it's because they just don't have enough money to live in the country in which they live. And this should be something we should probably be worried about.
You kind of framed it in this really important lens. It's greed versus love.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of reminded by what you said of this quote of this amazing lawyer, this African American attorney and author and activist named Brian Stevenson, who founded the Equal Justice Initiative, one of my absolute heroes. He said that the opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. And if we consume with our heart and our values, then of course we want justice and dignity and a living income and no deforestation. We want to give our kids a better planet. We want to give future generations a habitable, beautiful, thriving planet and not some like smoking Mad Max wasteland like World War III, because everyone's like looking for water, you know?
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
if we put love at the heart of our consumption
Yeah.
instead of greed, then it changes everything.
Wow. That's a really brilliant quote, and I might have to just think about this a little bit more. I'm just curious to see what are we looking for in the coffee industry. When you talk about all the things you talked about, in my brain, I'm already thinking about other sectors that the coffee industry affects. Coffee uses a lot of water, so I'm thinking of water pollution. I'm thinking of like other value chains that is connected to this. So ultimately, what would you love to see in the coffee industry?
Well, there's so many things. There's not a living income and no deforestation. And I'd want us to grow coffee that's actually regenerative agroforestry, where you heal the earth by putting in lots of trees in and around the coffee. You can give farmers food security trees and income diversification trees so they're not just hostage to the vicissitudes of market shocks. When they're monocropping and then the price of coffee goes high, it's great. And then the price of coffee goes low and they're screwed. When you protect them from the vicissitudes of these market shocks by having many different kinds of crops, you are not just lifting them out of poverty, you are also protecting their you're eliminating some of their fragility. You're making them more resilient. But you're a water guy, David. I mean, you're also many other things, but your heart, you're someone who's like a water warrior for clean water. And let's be honest, water is life, right? Most of our bodies are made out of water. You cannot go for a very long time without drinking water, right? You can not for a bit if you're going to go on a hunger strike or whatever, but try going without water and you'll just die. We need water. Coffee is terrible for water. People don't know this, but coffee is one of the most HHP thirsty crops in the world. HHP is highly hazardous pesticides. Coffee uses an enormous amount of pesticides, like way disproportionately. So that coffee is like poisoning entire ecosystems, right? And where do you think that stuff goes? Into rivers and into aquifers that we drink, and then into the ocean. So that's one. But also, when you process coffee, often that means that you And that means that there's all this like stuff that's called mucilage. It's very acid that like washes off the coffee. Nobody processes that pretty much.
Yeah.
It's almost unheard of in the coffee industry. It's just not at all standard practice to treat your effluents. Think of it as just like, instead of going to the bathroom,
Crazy.
you just poop wherever you feel like it. Like, oh, I need to poop. I'm just gonna like poop in the middle of the sidewalk. I'm gonna poop away. I'm gonna poop in your office. I'm gonna poop. You're like, what? You're pooping? What are you doing? Go to the effing bathroom. The coffee industry is not potty trained. It just dumps its everywhere, which is disgusting and in like 2026 unacceptable and cray cray. And then the last thing is that you don't know this, but the last thing is that a ton of packaging from the coffee industry is actually responsible for a lot of ocean plastic. All the pods, very few pods are really recyclable or compostable. Like, mostly you have just crazy numbers of pods in our landfills, in our oceans. They'll take millennia to go away. And not just that, but the cups. How many people drink single-use cups? Those cups, they're made often from virgin forest and lined with plastics. You cannot recycle them. You cannot use them. And they wind up in our oceans. And the straws, like the coffee industry has a huge ocean problem, big water problem, basically. As a waterman, you should probably go on a warpath to fix that.
That is a struggle. It's an everyday struggle, to be honest with you. A lot of things that I think we're picking up from this conversation, and I think we're probably just gonna wrap up soon because it's a lot of thinking that has to go into this. But I want to leave people with more action-based message of what to do next. If someone's listening to this, hey, I've gotten to know how terrible this industry is. I am an individual. Fine, there is another person who probably works with the government or has a connection with a government institution or someone else. There are different kind of groups we cannot control who listens to this. But what will be that one action message that we should take? I know it's quite obvious, but it's also good to direct people on what to do. What is that one message that you pass across that, hey, after listening to this, this is what I recommend?
I would say be a coffee ninja. And to unpack what that means, first of all, don't feel bad about yourself. Don't spend a single second or day doom scrolling about all the bad news about deforestation and poverty and child labor and sexual exploitation in coffee. Don't do that because you did not know and you were not willingly complicit. And, you're not like the Wizard of Oz. You cannot just fix this with a magic wand. But now that you know that there's this huge problem, you can be a coffee ninja. First thing you can do is you can just change your own coffee. Like, don't buy bad coffee. Buy coffee that aligns with your values. And there's often small, different, ethical, sustainable coffee. It's big here in Costa Rica. I'm in Denmark. Here in Denmark, there's a small ethical coffee company called like Slow Forest Coffee. That's really cool. There's this company in Indonesia. It's called Orangutan Coffee. There's a company I know in London that's called Kiss the Hippo Coffee. In the US, you can get bird-friendly coffee. But, every different country has like different options. But wherever you are, research it, find it, and buy that stuff. Like, don't buy the bad stuff. And the second thing is, after you change your life, and you don't have to be perfect all the time, but like just buy as much good coffee as you can and as little bad coffee as you can, right? The second thing is try to change institutions. Do you go to a church, a mosque, a synagogue? Do you go to university? Are you in a big office? Are you like part of a football team? Do you, run a community center? Are you in local government? Wherever you are, you can try to change the coffee of that institution. And mostly they will say like, why? And just that of you educating them, I'm an ambassador for sustainability in coffee. You have become a coffee ninja. And all the more so if you work in food or hospitality, if you're in a hotel, a restaurant, a bar, a cafe, a cafeteria, anything that you can do, or if you know someone in that industry, anything you can do to change that institution's coffee, that's like a big win.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
think to recognize you have immense power and that that power is beautiful and it's yours, you can use it. That's kind of eye-opening. And that if you're able to do that for coffee, maybe every year of your life, you can do it for something else. Maybe next year, it's your chocolate. You come from, I'm
Yep.
sure you know that there's a lot of problems
Yep.
with unsustainable cocoa.
Yep.
Maybe the year after, it's you start to change your clothes. Maybe the
That's
year
it.
after that, you tackle something else. Each year of your life, you can try to, don't crush your system and kill yourself, but you can like over time empower yourself to be a shining light in your family,
Yeah.
in your community.
So there you go. You have it. Go be that action maker. Let's make things happen. Don't just listen, but really be part of the change. But I also want to say that, Eto, over the past 5 years, I have spoken to over 120 people doing different things. They all specialized and passionate about the environment. It's hard to find, when I speak to someone, I know the person is speaking from the heart. And I know the person is putting in a lot of, I just know it from how the person speaks. You are a mother, you are a wife, you are so many things. But to still make time for this, I say, congratulations. Super proud of what you do. Keep doing it because I think these people should be a little bit more appreciated around the world. You should be more appreciated than you have right now or than you are right now. But we hope we get there. But if no one has told you, I'm sure people have told you. I also do emphasize on that really super, super proud of what you do. And it's also an encouragement for me to also keep pushing. With all the years that you've been doing activism, human rights work, and everything, I have heard so many people say things about human rights that our approach is not good. How we do this is just too much of feelings and less of facts and what is happening on the ground. What do you think? I think probably this will be my final question, but what do you think human rights is all about or activism is all about? And how can we change that narrative of what people think about activism and sort of fighting for human rights?
I think that in its most fundamental core, human rights is about love and respect for other people, right? Because if I think that my fellow brothers and sisters on this earth are beautiful and deserving of love and care and respect, no matter how old they are, or what color they are, or
Yep,
what religion they are, or what ethnicity they
yep,
are, or where they are in the world, then it flows from that I will fight for their well-being. And I will
that's
try to
it.
codify as much of that well-being as I can into law so that these become human rights that people cannot take away from them, right? Because
Yep,
if I care about these people, if I love them, if I see them as equals, as my brothers and sisters, then
that's
obviously
it.
I want them to thrive and have opportunities and not be abused and be protected from horrible violence and injustice. And conversely, if I do not love or care
Yep,
about other people, then I could imagine, someone who doesn't care sees them as disposable fodder for a factory, or like peons that you could just exploit
right.
in the farms that are sending from the factory or the farm the stuff that you're consuming. And so if you see it as I have no love and I have no care for those people, then
That's it.
of course, who gives a hoot if they experience horrible violence and abuse? But if you care about them and you think of them as equals, how could you not want to make their well-being enshrined in law and then fight for their rights?
Wow. Wow. Interesting. Well, if you've listened to this conversation to this point, I'm sure there are so many things that you have to think about. Thank you so much, Ethel, for making time for
Well, cool.
this call. But before I let you go, got two questions for you. What does sustainability mean to you, and what are you doing towards that?
Yeah. I think, the Brundtland Report is kind of the Bible of the sustainability movement.
Ooh,
We could go on and be nerds and nerd out about the Brundtland Report, but in a way, it's simpler, like how I truly feel about sustainability. I want to leave my son a thriving planet where there's like clean air and clean water and functioning
yeah,
ecosystems that can support human civilization.
yeah,
I know that's not probably what like I'm so professional.
yeah, yeah,
I would correct and I would get full points if we were in class. So what I just said is maybe not full points
yeah, yeah,
accuracy as a
yeah.
lawyer, but that's
Truly,
as a mom, like
truly appreciate that. It comes with some level of honesty, and I think that's what this show is all about. Really getting to know what people think from their personal perspective. If you have this amazing superpower to change one thing in this industry or in the industry where you operate, what would you change and with what superpower?
oh my God, that's such a hard question because there's two things I would want to change. So I would have to fight with my friend
Don't
with friends.
cheat.
But
Don't cheat.
the number one thing, if I had a superpower and I could just wave a magic wand, would be for all workers in coffee in every industry to earn a living wage.
Yeah, yeah. I was expecting that.
Yeah, because I
I
think
was
so many
definitely
other good
expecting
things
that.
would flow from that. When people are able to survive economically, then they have more calm and space and breathe. Then they can take care of Mother Earth better. Like if you're starving, how can you take care of Mother Earth properly? It's not possible.
That's it.
I
Yeah,
think that's
that's
what I
it.
would want for Hogwarts. Where are you? Are you there? Do I get my acceptance letter? Is there an
We'll keep that as a wish at this point. Hopefully, who knows? Maybe that will
Hogwarts
happen.
call?
Thank you so much for making time for the show. And I truly, truly enjoyed the conversation. And I'm really looking forward to doing a follow up on this whilst I wiggle my brain around what else can we talk about. Of course, wait, the question should be what else can I focus on among all the things that we can talk about? Exciting. Thank you so much for
Well, this
making
is
time.
amazing. I'm just so grateful to you for this opportunity, and I love your show. So it's a real honor to be on. So thank you.